Today we're going to watch a video produced by the Jehovah's Witnesses that follows the story of Quey, a devout Jehovah's Witness who recounts the story of growing up in a Jehovah's Witness household. Quey's mother would do anything to encourage her children to stick to the faith, but how exactly does she go about doing this? Let's watch.
The truth came to our home through my mother. I was never seriously interested in the truth. Where we grew up, education was very important. A person needed to make money and live a lavish life. So that's the life I chose, to study, to get higher education so that I could have what others had.
So right away, we're introduced to this brother named Quey. He says, the truth came to our home through our mother. I was never seriously interested in the truth. So I've talked about this before in other videos, but Jehovah's Witnesses believe that they have the one correct interpretation of Scripture. In fact, they believe anybody who calls themselves Christian is actually a false Christian, a counterfeit Christian. Jehovah's Witnesses believe they are the only true Christians, and so they refer to themselves as the truth with a capital T. So that's a propaganda word right out the gate. But also, as he's walking us through his young adulthood and, sort of describing the values of the people in his area or his demographic, he's saying, they needed to make a lot of money so they could live a lavish lifestyle. Nobody talks like this. Lavish lifestyle is a lazy stereotype that the organization loves to recycle in their literature and videos to reinforce this idea that getting an education is automatically going to lead to immorality and wild, unbridled consumerism. A lot of people go to college because they want to hone their skills and talents and find a job that pays accordingly. Some people are just naturally more studious and thrive in a strict academic environment. And then, of course, a lot of people go to college and find out it's not for them. They struggle to find work because the market is oversaturated or there's an economic downturn. There are always realistic reasons for not going to college, but the organization repeatedly reduces college to strictly moral terms, as if pursuing higher education says something about your character. Let's keep going.
Although they could see that I wasn't interested in the truth, my mother and brother did not give up on me. When I came back from school in January, my mother ordered the Examining the Scriptures daily booklet for me. Year after year, I always had the Examining the Scriptures daily booklet and the Bible. She made sure that although I wasn't attending meetings, at least I had literature.
So Quey is pursuing college, he's doing his thing, and he expresses that he's not really into the whole witness thing, but he says, my mother and brother did not give up on me. He says, year after year, my mother gave me the Examining the Scriptures daily booklet, which is like a Bible verse of the day booklet. Plenty of Christian denominations do this. This is not unique to the Witnesses. She gives him a Bible, and then we see her packing these items into his personal duffel bag, basically making sure that he has some form of exposure to the organization, even if he's not regularly attending meetings. And I have no doubt that Quey's mother believes in her heart that she was doing the right thing. But this behavior is not unique to Quey's mother. It happens all the time in the organization with Jehovah's Witness parents, and it's a serious red flag. Quey's mother is choosing to ignore her grown son's boundaries. Again, this is an extremely common practice or trend among devout Jehovah's Witness parents, and if you look at the statistics, you'll see why. According to a study conducted in 2016 by the Pew Research Center, Jehovah's Witnesses have one of the lowest retention rates, with 2/3 eventually leaving the organization. This results in an ongoing concerted campaign by parents to lock in any unbaptized children or rope grown adult children who have left back into the fold. If Quey was addicted to hard drugs, Quey's mother would have a legitimate incentive to fight for her son because she's coming from an evidence-based position. We have evidence that drug addiction can have fatal consequences. There's no evidence to support that if Quey doesn't become a Jehovah's Witness, his life is going to fall apart and he's going to die. Jehovah's Witnesses leave the organization all the time and go on to lead happy, fulfilling lives. And from what it sounds like at the outset, it sounds like Quey was on a pretty productive, successful path. Instead, Jehovah's Witness parents are taught that if their child does not become a baptized member of the organization, their child will die at Armageddon. Quey's poor mother was basically brainwashed into believing that it was literally a matter of life and death if she didn't do everything in her power to indoctrinate her son. And unfortunately, this translated into her continuing to push her beliefs on her children, even after their initial instincts said, this isn't really for me. So let's see what happens with Quey.
When I came back from school, I saw my brother getting a Bible study of his own, and I was surprised to see him studying the Bible and noticed that he had prepared. He cared about and loved what he was learning. That's when I understood that the Bible changes lives. And I finally started studying the Bible with someone in 2007 and got baptized in 2008. My family really encouraged me. They never gave up on me. And I encourage parents not to give up on their children. They must continue encouraging them and have the hope that Jehovah God will draw them to the organization because they have good hearts.
Okay, so Quey sees his brother starting to take the truth seriously and has his own Bible study. He's progressing. This inspires Quey, and so he decides to start taking the truth seriously. In the end, Quey gets baptized, and now he's admonishing other Jehovah's Witness parents to not give up on their children. He says they must continue encouraging them with the hope that Jehovah will draw them to the organization because they have good hearts. Okay, there is so much to unpack here. If Quey is truly happy with his life, I don't begrudge him happiness. He has the right to practice his faith. However, I absolutely do not agree with the message that parents should keep pushing their ideology on their children when their children have expressed that they're not interested. And I'm not even referring to minor children here, because I realize that that's a counter argument that a lot of parents could make. You know, you're 12 years old, you live under my roof, you abide by my rules. I get that, but I don't think that's what's happening here. It appears that Quey's mother was converted because he said the truth came into our home through our mother. But Quey was in college. This is a man we're talking about. Granted, he may be a young man, but he's still a man. He's an adult. Which makes me, in turn, question Quey's decision based on the grounds of undue influence. What do I mean by that? There is a clause in Jehovah's Witness doctrine that says if you raise your child in the organization and they just flat out reject it, you are 100% justified in distancing yourself from them, and that's on them. I wonder, if Quey held his position, if he firmly rejected his mother's insistence and prodding, I wonder if there would be a high probability that his mother would feel the need to distance herself from her own son because he's not good for her spiritual morale. I mean, I can't say that with absolute certainty, it's speculation, but I can say there is plenty of anecdotal evidence out there of people who did go through this. They were coerced, they were cajoled, they were guilted into getting baptized because they love mom and dad and they don't want to lose them, or they were financially dependent on their parents and couldn't risk losing that familial scaffolding. I'm conflicted about this. Clearly, Quey speaks of his mother and brother very highly. He seems to be a very genuine person. I can't help but wonder, why was Quey initially not interested? Is it possible he had other goals or dreams he wanted to pursue? Was there something that didn't sit well with him in the Jehovah's Witness doctrine or lifestyle? In an organization that considers itself the mouthpiece for God and truth, is it possible Quey was motivated more by a sentimental attachment to his mother and brother than a critical examination of the organization's doctrine and policies? If Quey felt genuinely drawn to Jehovah, why did he need his mother to essentially pester Quey into worshiping him? I mean, other than being preoccupied with his studies, Quey doesn't really give a concrete answer, and again, he has the right to practice his faith. But the fact that Quey made it clear that he wasn't interested and his mother kept pushing is a message I don't think should be celebrated, and yet it is. Sisters like Quey's mother are praised all the time in the organization, when in reality this behavior reflects a disrespect for their child's autonomy and is symptomatic of conditional love. It tells children who are not interested in pursuing the religion of their parents, who don't want to get baptized, that they won't be accepted for who they are. As someone who had 30 years of experience in the organization, I saw scenarios like this play out all the time in the congregation and in my immediate family. I saw people I loved grapple with intense insecurity and low self-esteem because they felt like they were always falling short. And this is why Quey's closing statement is probably the most problematic quote of the entire video. They must continue encouraging them with the hope that Jehovah will draw them to the organization because they have good hearts. Thus implying that if your child is firm in their position to not become a Jehovah's Witness or not return to the organization, then they don't have good hearts. This is an incredibly toxic message to push on children and has divided countless families in the organization, proving once again that the Watchtower organization only espouses family values when it supports their bottom line. If you or someone you know is currently in Quey's position, share this video and remind them that they're loved, regardless of whether they become Jehovah's Witnesses or not. Thank you for watching. See you next time.